Hi, I'm Dana. I want to take this video to focus on some of the basic things that I struggle with, just basic everyday things that I find really difficult. Because I feel like a lot of the time when we discuss things that autistic people struggle with, we specifically focus on sort of social struggles and the struggles that we have that affect people outside of ourselves. Whereas I feel like I have a lot of everyday basic struggles that I don't really tell other people about and don't really show to the world, and very much quite often I'm ashamed of and don't want to tell people and don't want people to know that I'm struggling with it, you know? But these videos are here for other autistic people and I don't mind you guys knowing. I don't mind people knowing in general, to be fair. It's just not sort of stuff that comes up in conversation, you know? So, getting straight into it, because this is something that I'm focused on, is showering and changing clothes and just basic personal hygiene. It's a massive struggle for me. I've made entire videos that I'll link here if you want to hear more that are like exclusively about hygiene. But to keep it short and sweet and brief for this video, I hate showering. I truly despise showering. So much of it is just sensorily really horrible, and I feel like a lot of this sensory difficulties people discuss when it comes to showering aren't necessarily ones that I share, but I am someone who has like quite dodgy interoception. It's only a term I found out about recently, and it's basically like feeling your body. So my temperature, like dealing with temperature regulation is very poor. So once I'm in the shower, I'm honestly a bit too hot, I'm a bit too warm, and the moment I'm out of the shower, I'm too cold, and taking my clothes off before I get in the shower, I'm too cold. My bathroom light's not currently working and hasn't been for quite a long time now, and it's a case of I can either shower in the dark and feel really anxious because it's pitch black and I can't see anything, or I can shower in the daytime when it's too bright and it feels like the sunlight's just reflecting off the white tiles directly into my fucking retinas, and it's horrible. There's the noise of the shower, the sound of water falling that quickly and onto like ceramic or whatever bathtubs are made out of. It's horrible. And then there's the added thing of I have a lot of comfort clothes and safe clothes, and I don't want them to change. You know, I will feel very physically uncomfortable in my next outfit for several hours. And it's one of those things as well where a lot of people are like, just buy multiples of the same item. They wear differently, they get holes in different places. After a couple of wears, they're no longer the same item anyway. And now I have 4 sweaters that look the same but feel different that I have to try on and be like, no, this is the wrong one, and put myself through more sensory discomfort. Similarly, a lot of smells that are involved in showering, different like moisturisers, different shower gels, shampoo, conditioner, all of that is a bit much for me. But when there's no scent at all, I don't trust that I'm actually clean. So it's been a struggle for me to find things that have like the right level of smell, and I can't always afford the things that have that. I quite often have to use things that I don't really want to use because that's what I can afford. And that's also another thing that a lot of people don't take into account when suggesting accommodations, is that I can't afford most accommodations that are out there. So as is the case today, I was like, I'm gonna shower in the morning like a person, because I haven't showered in like a week and I'm getting pretty gross and I need to shower because that's what human beings do, you know? I'm a full grown adult and I can have a shower. It's 12 o'clock and I'm like, I'd better film my video first because otherwise it's gonna be like 7 p.m. when I finally film the video after my shower, because I just know at this point that I'm not showering until later. The whole event is just difficult for me and it feels like a demand, and I don't want to do it. Like I want to feel clean. It's not a nice sensory feeling to feel dirty, and I do feel dirty, but the act of showering is worse. And especially with someone with like this much hair, washing my hair is a fucking nightmare. It stays wet for like 12 hours and it makes me want to die every time it touches me. But also I despise the way that I look with short/no hair, so I've just got to deal with it, and it's difficult to deal with. And I don't understand how the average person can get up, shower in the morning and then go to work. It blows my mind. I'm sat here like hours later still struggling to get myself to go and shower. It's not fun. It's a very basic need, and yeah, I struggle with it. Next up is everything surrounding eating, all of it, the whole fucking lot. Going and doing a food shop is so difficult. Even doing it online I find very hard because I don't know what I'm going to want to eat. I don't know what the safe food's gonna be. Most of the time when I can afford to, I go to the shop every day and buy my food for that day, and it's a nightmare. All the different sounds, all the different people, having to actually find the stuff and decide on a brand and make all these decisions like quick fire one after the next is a nightmare for me. I can stand in a shop and just stare at like the 4 different brands of vegan cheese for 15 minutes before I can decide which one I want, you know? And if I go and they don't have the thing that I need or want, my day is ruined, my week can be ruined. Just the shopping aspect of eating is a nightmare. I then have to find the energy to cook, because it's one of those things where like you're just stood at a stove, but the mental energy that it takes, having to think of each step for everything, because like I do enjoy cooking when I have the energy. I'm a good cook. I can cook a lot of really good things. I can bake quite well. I understand how they work, but I understand how cooking and baking works because I know all of like the science in each step and how you're supposed to do things and why things need to be done that way. And I need to think of all that stuff to do it. So if I don't have the mental energy, it doesn't matter how little I've done with my actual body. It doesn't matter how much like physical energy I have. I don't have the mental energy to be able to prepare myself a meal. And because I go to the shop and tend to get what I need each day, it doesn't happen too often. But my ex insisted that we had to do like a weekly food shop, and I would then, that's the food that I have to eat for the week. I can't buy anything else. I can't get anything else. That's the food for the week. And all of a sudden, I can't eat anything because none of it sounds the slightest bit appealing. And I understand that everyone has those times, but as an autistic person, it's a case of like my parents used to be like, oh, well, she'll eat once she gets hungry enough, just leave her there. I won't. I can be like ravenous, like my stomach will be rumbling. It feels like I'm being eaten from the inside out. I can't eat whatever that thing is. If it's not the right thing, if it's not the safe food, if it's not prepared in the right way, I physically cannot and will not eat it. You know, and as someone that doesn't have all that much money, it fucking sucks to have to just put a whole meal in the bin and just be like, well, that's me not eating for the next like day and a half. But it's one of those things where like if I could just do it, I would. I can't. My next point ties into that as well, because I don't know when I'm hungry a lot of the time. I don't have the thing of like, oh, I'm getting a little bit peckish. I go from I'm completely fine, I'm all right, I don't need to eat anything, I don't need to drink anything, I'm fine, to I'm ravenous, I am thirsty, and if I don't pee right now, I'm going to piss my pants. And that's the interoception issue that I was talking about earlier. My body, like I don't receive the signals until the signal is screaming. So like I get really anxious going out because if I'm somewhere that doesn't have a loo around, I might piss myself. And like I don't have a physical like health issue for this. I don't have anything physical going on that like means I need to pee or means that I have like issues with needing a bathroom very quickly. It's a case of like I just don't get the signal until I need the bathroom. So I limit the places I go to make sure that I'm near a bathroom. I almost had a complete meltdown the other day because the train station that I was like, I always pee before I leave the house, and I was like, there's a train station between where I am and where I'm going and I can stop there and pee. And when I got there, the toilet was closed and I almost had a full meltdown because I was like, I don't know if I need to pee. Like I literally don't know if I need to use the bathroom. So the fact that I can't use it here for like safety means that I now have to get another train to the place that I'm going. And if at any point during that I suddenly need to pee, I can't. I'm going to be desperate for a toilet. So it's one of those things that doesn't sound like it should be an issue. It doesn't sound like it should be something that's necessarily even involved with autism. But because I don't receive those signals, I have to constantly think like, am I going to be near enough to a bathroom? And similarly with the temperature thing from before, I don't always feel when I'm too hot or too cold. Like I'm currently wearing an electric blanket because my house is freezing. So like I know the house is cold. I can feel that the house is cold. But I will have the thing where like I'll have my blanket on, I'll be sat here and I'll be like, I don't feel well. I feel kind of nauseous. I feel kind of sweaty. I don't feel okay. And I'll take the blanket off to go and do something and be like, oh my God, I was too hot. I was too hot. Obviously, I feel completely fine now that the blanket's not on. But like, I don't have like the signals or whatever's required to sit here and be like, oh, I'm too hot, I'm gonna take this blanket off, you know? My next one's one that ties into a lot of other things, which is that I really struggle with switching or starting a task. I always struggle to explain this. So I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is I watch something. Like when I'm having my morning cuppa, I'm waking up, I'll watch a movie, I'll watch whatever show I'm on, I'll watch some YouTube videos, I will watch something. And I then finish my cup of tea, and it's when my cup is finished that my day like actually starts, because that's when I scoop the cat's litter tray, it's when I do my dishes, it's when I like, do my laundry, you know, whatever like house stuff needs doing, I do after I've had my morning cuppa because that's finished, so I need to make a new one. So being able to set up things like that where like there's a clear end, my tea is finished, I need to get up and go and do other things. But with other stuff, like where it's not as simple as like I can have a cuppa while I do this and once that's finished so's this thing. If it's not like that, I will massively struggle to switch to a new thing. So for example, I often watch, a lot of my day is based on watching stuff, I won't lie. So I'll watch something before I edit a video. If it's good enough, I will just keep watching something and not edit the video. And similarly, once I've managed to actually get around to editing videos, I usually have like 4 or 5 piled up because I just edit then. I'm in that zone, that is what I'm doing. I will just keep editing and keep editing and keep editing and barely even notice the time passing. But actually starting that, actually beginning to edit, is so difficult to get myself to do. And like I say, like, I can keep doing it and keep doing it once I'm doing it. This applies to things that I actively enjoy. Like, I know people talk about editing like it's like the bane of their existence on here. I genuinely enjoy editing my videos. I like the process of all this stuff. That's most of why I do it. But, you know, like, even when it's things that I actively enjoy doing, I just put it off and I don't get around to it. And it's one of those things that's always been seen as like me procrastinating, me just putting things off, me just being lazy, when it's a case of like, it's just such a struggle to switch to the next task. Like, once I've started cleaning the kitchen, I will clean the entire kitchen. I will make that shit spotless. It's just the act of actually starting to do it is so difficult. So they're the sort of like day-to-day things that I find that I struggle with and that I find quite difficult. But I have 2 more that are a little bit more, not necessarily niche, but they're not ones that I personally experience as much, but have and do experience at times. And they're ones that I've sort of not necessarily noticed, but I'm like aware of in other autistic people I know. So the first is noise control, like like the volume control, speaking, actively like being a person and socializing. I have little to no concept of what volume I'm speaking at any given moment, and it's one of those things that I think is somewhat stereotyped as like the low support need autistic person that always speaks too loudly and is always really loud and they're just shouting at you. But that's the stereotype, you know? And as with a lot of things with autism, there's the hyper and hypo ends, and I very much twist and shout between them essentially. I don't know why I went for a Beatles song, but I go between them quite excessively. And when I was younger, I spent quite a lot of time being quite loud. I would quite often be like telling jokes, talking to friends, whatever else in school, and they'd be like, Dana, like, keep it down, like, what the fuck, you're being so loud. And I'd be like, oh shit, am I did not notice. And I've had it a lot in like just conversations with like friends and family where they're like, why are you shouting at me? And I'm like, I'm not, I'm sorry. Like, we're not talking even during like discussions or arguments or whatever, like we're talking just normal conversation. They're like, why are you shouting? And I'm like, I didn't know I was. But as I've gotten older and been through trauma and deal with a lot of anxiety, I massively struggle to be loud enough. Like, I feel quite lucky that my best friend is like the typical loud American, because they speak for me all the time. Because like when we've met people together and the like, I will like introduce myself. I'll be like, oh hi, I'm Dana, and the other person will not be able to hear me. I cannot make it loud enough for the person to hear me. And like, they are like, it's usually nice people that I'm meeting at this point in my life, thankfully. So they'll be like, oh sorry, I didn't catch that. And I will say it like 3, 4, 5 more times and they will not be able to hear me. And I'll be like, I know I'm being too quiet, but I can't make myself be louder. I can't control the volume of my speaking voice in this situation. And then my friend has to introduce me. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I have the accommodation of my friend being the person that speaks for me. It's fine, I can live with it. But also it'd be really nice to be able to control the volume of my voice. You know, like even in like if I relate it to more day-to-day stuff, it's a case of like when I speak to cashiers, the people on the tills in shops, I'm either like it will come out, I will say what I'm, you know, like even if it's as simple as like, can I get a bag please? Can I have the receipt please? Oh, I'm paying on card, thank you. I never know if it's going to come out like I'm shouting at them and being really loud, or if it's going to be like a little whimper of a mutter that they don't hear. I just cannot control my volume. I wish I could. It's, you know, like even with videos, I feel like sometimes I'm like shouting at the camera and I have to like really tone it back and dial it back. And I'm not sure if I am or not, I don't know. And finally, I'm including this one because I feel like it is, to a point, something I still struggle with, but it was definitely something I dealt more with when I was in school. And I was quite surprised to see it like listed on a lot of like official autism diagnosis chatter stuff, which is not knowing your own strength. So since I was very, very young, I've just been a lot stronger than I look. I don't think I'm a necessarily like really strong person, but I've never looked like I should be able to lift anything, you know? Like, I've had many situations where I've picked something up and everyone around me is like, how can you carry that? What the hell, it's so heavy. And I'm like, it's really it's fine, you know, like there's some weight to it, but it's not that heavy. And the way that that came across for me in school quite often was that I was quite horribly bullied throughout like my entire school life, literally from start to end. And especially in primary school, a lot of people like would get physical with me because you're children, they don't really know better and they know they can get away with it. And I would quite often like I had a lad that would constantly jump on my back, and I had a day where I just had enough, so I shoved my back against the wall with him on it. And like, I'm honestly kind of surprised he didn't need to go to hospital or something. Like, I really fucked that boy up. And it's one of those things that I'm always like, oh, I feel bad about that. No, I don't. Why was he jumping on me? What the fuck? Like, that was his own fault. Don't do that to people. But, you know, like, I had a lot of situations like that where I was being bullied and I'd do something back. And my parents would point out, like, she just responded to what they're doing to her. This isn't her fault. And the teachers would be like, yes, but Dana just doesn't understand her own strength. It was constant. It was all the time when I was a kid. And it's one of those things that as an adult, I'm more so like, yeah, I kind of don't. Like, my friend recently moved house and there was stuff that I was like, I just need to move it, so I'm just going to fucking move it. And I'd be like, holy shit, I just picked up that entire bookcase on my own and like put it on top of another bookcase. Like, that's quite impressive, actually. I do have a lot of strength and you can't really see it in me, you know? Like, I'm not a muscled person. I'm not even like nothing about me makes you think that I would be strong, essentially. But I do have a decent amount of strength, I think. I don't know what the normal standard is, I won't lie. But it's one of those things where I had to repeatedly hear, like, Dana doesn't know her own strength, to be able to get to a point where I'm like, oh, I think I actually am aware of how strong I am. I just don't necessarily know how it relates to how strong other people are. But that is the final thing that I wanted to bring up. So as always, I love the comment section to be a little discussion zone for us all to like safely talk about the things that we struggle with and things that we find difficult and everything else that comes with being autistic. So I would love it if you wanted to share a comment if you relate to any of these, if there's anything you think that I should have included that I missed or that you experienced, that would be very cool. I post here on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays, so if you wanted to subscribe and like the video and see more from me, that'd be really cool. If you really want to see more from me, I'm also posting daily over on TikTok, and I occasionally post over on Instagram too, so they'll be linked down below. And I will also link down below my Ko-fi and Patreon, that if you want to send me some money, but you never have to, you don't have to, there's no pressure, there's no, like, I'm not trying to push it, you know, I'm just letting you know, if someone did want to give me money, you can, but you don't have to, there's no pressure. I like this content being free, and I have the whole little idea in my head of like, I'm helping people, man, and it's actually accessible, you know, even if my content isn't actually very helpful at all, at least it's free. But that's me signing off with no more shit that I can do to put off having to shower, so I'm doing that. Believe in me. I don't believe in me. We're gonna try our best, okay? That's all any of us can do. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.